The treatment of amyloidosis goes along two different lines. One is treatment of the underlying plasma cell dyscrasia, which is the myeloma-like component of amyloidosis, which is what we've been targeting for many years. We use bortezomib, which is our traditional first-line treatment, and combining bortezomib with other drugs is really where things are going forward. There have been some recent data using pomalidomide in patients with relapsed refractory amyloidosis. This appears to be much better tolerated than other immunomodulatory agents with very good and very rapid responses. The agent which is promising to change the landscape is the monoclonal antibody daratumumab. There has been some recent data which was published in Blood a couple of months ago showing that patients who have relapsed after many lines of treatment with daratumumab, the responses are very high in up to 60 to 70% of patients, and these responses can also result in cardiac responses. Our French colleagues have just done a phase 2 clinical trial, and I showed a slide which they shared with me showing that even with single agent daratumumab at end of 1 month, nearly 60% patients will achieve a 90% or greater reduction in their monoclonal light chains. This is fairly dramatic and quite different from what we see in multiple myeloma, where the responses to single agent daratumumab in the relapsed refractory setting are in the order of 30 or 40%. In amyloid, they seem to be in the order of 60 or 70%. Ixazomib is the oral proteasome inhibitor, and their phase 1 trial has been completed and the phase 3 trial is ongoing. And it's another very promising agent in amyloidosis. The tolerance in the phase 1 trial was very good and the responses looked much better. We know that the proteasome inhibitors in amyloid are very plasma cells in amyloid are very sensitive to proteasome inhibition, and therefore ixazomib promises to be another very good agent in amyloidosis. So I think we have got a number of new agents, that some of the old agents in myeloma, so to say, which are new for amyloid, and some of the relatively new agents which promise to be relatively less toxic and offer rapid responses in anti-amyloid therapy. Moving on to the actual drugs which clear amyloid deposits, we've got these 3 monoclonal antibodies. We've got one which we are studying in London, which is currently being studied by GSK, Glaxo, which is an antibody to SAP. In the phase 1 clinical trial, when this antibody was given along with a drug called CPHPC, we were able to show that the amyloid from the liver cleared literally within 6 weeks of giving this drug. This was the most dramatic result in amyloid clearance that certainly I've ever seen. And we hope that this can be translated into amyloid clearance for the heart and the kidneys, which are really the 2 organs which cause major morbidity and mortality. The phase 1 data from the NEO-001 antibody made by Prothena also looks interesting, and 2 nicely conducted phase 3 trials have completed. These are randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trials. One of them will hopefully read out sometime next year, and the other one maybe the year after. And the third antibody is the KEL-101 antibody, which is also an antibody developed against light chain amyloidosis. And the phase 1 data with this also looks very interesting, and we hope that the phase 2 studies with this will start soon. So I think all 3 antibodies are interesting in their own way. The GSK antibody appears to be very rapidly acting. The Prothena antibody certainly shows progressive responses and appears to be relatively non-toxic. And the KEL-101 also appears to show very rapid responses. So I think on an amyloid treatment front, we've got 3 very promising drugs, and we look forward to the results of those trials.